Welcome to Saju Matthew Online Safety University.
So my next question is, how can we carry out risk assessment?
Yeah. How can we carry out risk assessment? So, in order to carry out risk assessment, there are 5 stages involved, 5 steps involved in risk assessment. First of all, look for the hazard. Decide who might be harmed and how. Evaluate the risk and decide existing control measures are adequate or anything more to be done. Record the finding, review and revise if necessary. There are 5 stages involved in a general risk assessment, that is, identification of the hazard or look for the hazard. Decide who might be harmed and how. Evaluate the risk and decide existing control measures are adequate or anything more to be done. Record the finding, review and revise the risk assessment if necessary. Now let us understand how will you identify the hazards. Hazards can be identified through observation, consultation, job safety analysis and referring documents such as MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheets, product label, previous incident accident investigation reports, inspection reports, maintenance reports, audit reports, then first aid reports, medical reports, legal directives such as COSHH 2002, Control of Substances Hazardous to Health Regulation 2002. From all this you can identify the hazards. So first step is to identify the hazard. Hazards can be identified through observation, consultation, job safety analysis, referring documents such as so and so and so. When you are identifying, you will identify, as I told you earlier, physical, chemical, biological, environmental, organizational, psychological, electrical, mechanical, ergonomics types of hazards you may identify. Now the first step is over, identification of the hazard. After identifying the hazard, decide who might be harmed and how. It is a very important step. You have to identify, you have to decide who might be harmed and how. The reason being, hazard is not going to affect everyone equally. It will have different effect on different people at different level. For example, there are certain people, they are known as vulnerable group, because a particular hazard is not going to affect everyone equally. For example, in this classroom, assume that this is a motivational training program. In this motivational training program, for the demonstration purpose, I am lighting a kerosene stove here. A kerosene stove I am lighting. In my group, in my audience group, I have children, I have pregnant women, I have elders, I have healthy people like you. Now, is it going to affect everyone equally? See, because the kerosene stove will be releasing a lot of carbon monoxide. Is it going to affect everyone equally? In fact, not. The lady in her initial stage of pregnancy will have quicker effect than a normal healthy person. Do you agree with me? So that means in the workplace, if there is a hazard, it is not going to affect everyone equally. That different people will have different effects. Some may affect very badly, very quickly, and some will not be affected at all. So that means such groups are known as vulnerable people. Vulnerable group in the sense, once you are capable of protecting those people, understand? Once you are capable of protecting those community who can be affected easily, that protection is sufficient enough to protect the person who is going to be affected at the last. Clear? Because by spending minimum time, minimum cost, minimum effort, you can control maximum risk if you know the population at risk. Population at risk include children, pregnant women, aged people, young employees, maintenance people. These people can be easily be affected. Any hazards can quickly affect these people. Once you are capable of protecting those people by your controls, that control is sufficient enough to protect the person who is going to be affected at the last also. That means you are covering everyone through your control. So that is why you have to decide who might be harmed. You have to see who are the population at risk around, whether pregnant women are there, children are there, then young employees are there, aged people are there, visitors are there, maintenance people are there. If they are there, they are going to be the one going to be affected at the first. And how they can be harmed. Or you should know what are the hazard effect of it. If there is a hazard, for example, if there is a trailing cable here, the hazard effect would be slipping, tripping and falling. So how can you remember what are the hazard effects? Here you have to see in the second step, decide who might be harmed and how. Who might be harmed? You got an answer. People, children, pregnant women, people on physically and mentally challenged people, aged people, maintenance people, visitors, they can be affected. How they can be affected? They can be affected in S, F, F, C, T, M, C, E, T, C, S, F, A, V. You can remember this acronym. S, F, F, C, T, M, C, E, T, C, S, F, A, V. I'll tell you what it is. Very simple. Hazards. What are the hazard effects? Hazard effects are slip, trip and fall, falling from height, falling objects, collision with the objects, mechanical hazards, electricity related hazards, fire and explosion, violence, animal related hazards, compacting, contact injuries, slipping, tripping, falling from height, falling objects, collision with the object, transport related hazards, mechanical related hazard, electricity related hazards, fire and explosion, ergonomical hazards. So you should anticipate what can go wrong. So in the second step, decide who might be harmed and how they can be harmed in this way. Now the third step is evaluate the risk and decide existing control measures are adequate or anything more to be done. Now in order to evaluate the risk, you have to see how we know what is risk. Risk is the product of probability of occurrence and severity of outcome. So here you have to consider two things: probability of something happening, probability of an accident occurring, that you have to consider, and severity, how much severe it is going to be. These factors you have to consider. For example, I'll tell you, there is an electrical cable lying in front of your reception. In the main reception, there is an electrical cable lying in front of the reception. And at the same time, there is an electrical cable lying in the back side of the building. We know which is having higher probability, which is in front of the reception, is having high probability. So the risk factor is more in case of which is lying in front of the reception. Whereas if the cable lying in the back side of the building, hardly any cleaning lady or cleaning man may be going over there, and that also once in a year, once in twice. Or twice in a year she might be going, so the probability of occurrence is less. So accordingly, by looking at the severity of occurrence, by looking at the probability of occurrence, you have to classify the risk into high, medium and low. Now if you feel that your risk factor is medium and above, if it is low, for time being you can avoid it because there is a possibility still it may escalate. But if it is medium risk or high risk, already I explained what is medium and high risk. When it is medium and high, you have to apply control measures in the order of hierarchy of control. I will discuss about hierarchy of control in another question. So you have to apply the control measures in the form of hierarchy of control. When you apply the control measures against this risk, first of all, in a risk assessment process, first of all, look for the hazard or identify the hazard. Decide who might be harmed and how. Evaluate the risk and decide existing control measures are adequate or anything more to be done. If you feel that existing control measures are inadequate, you have to apply new control measures in the order of hierarchy of control. We will discuss about hierarchy of control separately. Then after applying control measure, there is a chance some amount of risk will be left with. So when you are applying control measure, you should be able to take care of that risk also. That control measure which you are suggesting against the residual risk is known as recovery measure. Clear? The third step is evaluate the risk and decide existing control measures are adequate or anything more to be done. If it is not adequate, suggest new control measures in the order of hierarchy of control. Even one thing you should keep in mind, when you are applying hierarchy of control, then also some amount of risk will be left with. This risk is known as residual risk. You should suggest control measures against those residual risk also. That control measures are known as recovery measures. Now the fourth step is record the statement. Why you have to record the risk assessment? Because it is a legal requirement that you have to record the risk assessment. It can be used for future training purposes. It can be used for incident investigation purposes. It can be used for audit purposes. And it is required during audit also. It can be used for audit purposes. And having a risk assessment, documented risk assessment is an evidence of management commitment towards health and safety. And again, having a documented risk assessment is an evidence of health and safety culture, positive health and safety culture. For many reasons, it is a legal requirement to have risk assessment recorded. It can be used for future references. It can be used for training purposes. It can be used for auditing purposes. It is an evidence. It will serve as an evidence of management commitment towards health and safety. It can be used for it will serve as an evidence of health and safety culture, positive health and safety culture. That is why you have to record the statement. Final step of risk assessment is to review the risk assessment and revise if necessary. Why you have to review risk assessment? Because you are bringing new technology. Daily your people are changing. Your technology is getting updated. You are changing your location. Your working environment is getting changed. Culture is getting changed. This risk will not be your technology advancement, your machinery advancement, your people's updation. Your manpower is getting changed, your location is getting changed, your environment is getting changed, your legislation is getting changed. So, your previous risk assessment may not be sufficient enough to meet the new situation. So, it is essential to review risk assessment whether it is coping up with our existing policy, whether it is coping up with our existing machinery and arrangements, whether it is sufficient enough for the new manpower. Considering all this, you have to review the risk assessment. And when will you review the risk assessment? Upon change in legislation, after an accident or incident, upon change in policy, upon bringing new technology, procedure or machinery, upon change in organizational arrangement, upon change in manpower, after an accident or incident, clear? Then after a specific time gap, because you cannot continue with your risk assessment for years together, every after 6 months or 1 year, you should review your risk assessment and you have to revise it if necessary. This is the way we conduct a risk assessment. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Very good.